All right, let's get back to Nashville and the scene of the horrific shooting that took 6 lives, 3 children. The shooter, a former student of the school who, according to authorities, was being treated for an emotional disorder. Our next guest knows the pain and suffering that comes with losing a loved one in a school shooting. His 18-year-old son, Kendrick Castillo, killed in Denver's STEM School Highlands Ranch shooting after heroically lunging at one of the shooters in 2019. Joining us now is Kendrick's father and school safety advocate, John Castillo. John, thank you for joining us. Our hearts go out to you. I can't even imagine what you and your family went through and continue to go through every day. And I'm sure after seeing what happened in Nashville, that brought back so many memories for you. But first, I want folks to know about your son and the brave, heroic acts that he did. Can you share his story?
Yeah, absolutely. Kendrick was 3 days away from his last day of school and 1 week before he was due to graduate. The morning of May 7th in 2019, which should have been like any ordinary day, Kendrick left for school, and around 2:30, we received information that there was a shooting at the STEM school. My wife and I went to the reunification site to look for our son with much anxiety, and we saw that families were being reunited, and we started to ask and wonder where he was, and we heard that, got a message that he had rushed the shooter and he was taken to a hospital. So we went there only to find out, we were pulled to a side room, and a detective and a chaplain came in and said that we can describe him. And we described what he was wearing the morning he left for school. And I said, he had on some Ray-Ban reading glasses. And she closed her book and she said, "I'm so sorry." And that's when we got the news. We weren't able to see Kendrick for over a week because he was part of the crime scene. And the coroner, the next time we saw him, was in a funeral home. It's the worst day of our lives.
John, I'm so sorry. It's just unbelievable that these things happen. Kids go to school and they should be safe. The shooting at the Covenant School in Nashville, it's added to many concerns that parents have over the safety and security at schools. The police chief mentioned that, other schools could have been targeted, but because of security assessments, potentially the shooter picked this school. As a parent, I know you're very vocal about this, but how do we fix this? How do we stop this from happening?
We have to harden our schools. We have to do away with the soft targets that we currently have. Every time a school shooting happens, or as we've come to call them, acts of domestic terror, it turns political. It's a tool used for gun control and other things that we now have a track record, and we know, no matter what laws are passed, waiting periods, things like that, do not make a difference. So we have to look at what really does. And I mean, having armed school staff, not just SROs, but having people who are there at the ready and eliminating gun-free zones, soft targets, are going to greatly minimize what we see.
Yeah, I was saying it yesterday. You go to airports, there's security. You go into a federal building, there's security. You walk down Fifth Ave, and there's security at some of these stores here. I know you attended a course that trains teachers on how to respond to an active shooter. You actually went there, and you didn't tell anybody who you were, and they told stories about your son. Talk to us about that training, and do you think that obviously, can help if unfortunately students and teachers are in that type of situation?
Oh, absolutely. I learned of the FASTER program here in Colorado, and I was curious about it. And before I would attach our name or the event that took our sons' lives to it, I wanted to know more. So I did. I agreed to go through and take the course. I mean, we're gun owners ourselves, my wife and I, and our son Kendrick was. But, I attended the FASTER course, and we went through, and it dispelled a lot of the myths that I was hearing from people about armed school staff, that there wasn't a high level of training, that only SROs or law enforcement should be allowed to carry in our schools. And as I found out, what was taught in that course is just amazing and quite the opposite. In fact, they're very high level of training. It's what we really need, we want in our schools, and it is going to make a difference. So I've come to endorse the program, and I support it wholly. And I wish that it was in all of our schools. I go out and I talk at their events and I share our testimony of losing our son. And I believe this is one step that is going to make a huge difference in mass shootings, school shootings, if we're able to do that. Rural communities have embraced it. Urban and suburban schools need to do the same. And now we're seeing, even the need in private education.
Yeah, a lot of people are on board with it, and then a lot of people aren't. It's really divided when it comes to arming teachers. I know that a lot of people want school resource officers in all of these schools. I know that you're currently fighting for information from the STEM school shooting. You want it to be released.
Right.
You want it made public. You've actually refused a settlement payments in the lawsuit. Why do you think they're not releasing that information?
Well, because it's damning to what is known and the lack of transparency in our schools. All families and parents should know that they should be able to go to any website, just like they check their students' grades, and see that there's been threats in that school that have risen to the level of law enforcement. They need to know that there is mental health threat assessments being done and the amount of them. They don't particularly need to know the details. They just need to know that they exist in these schools. And that's where we're at. We've discovered through our own investigation things that should be known. And now, we're fortunate enough here in Colorado to have what's called the Claire Davis Act. The girl who lost her life in a school shooting, her parents brought this bipartisan act forward. We're the first people to use it. And now we're at a point where we're fighting confidentiality to be able to talk about what we've discovered. And that's important.
Absolutely. Parents just want to know. They want to know everything that's happening in the schools. John Castillo, thank you. And thank you for sharing your story and your son's story. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you for your fair reporting on all of this important information.
All right. Thank you, John. All right.